Did you know that geologists claim the Mediterranean Sea was once a vast lake? In the distant past, there was no way out of it due to the movement of tectonic plates and other natural phenomena that reshaped the continent. Initially, the sea was much smaller in the east, but then, for mysterious reasons, a narrow strait emerged between Europe and Africa, measuring just 13 kilometers. It's still unclear whether the residents of the Spanish and Moroccan coasts can see each other across the strait. Amazingly, almost 90 million people now inhabit this region. Surprisingly, there has long been a desire to connect both states and continents with a bridge or tunnel, but for some reason, this ambitious idea never materialized. However, there's exciting news on the horizon as Spain and Morocco have recently renewed plans for this megaproject. In today's video, we'll delve into more details about the bridge that will finally connect Africa and Europe. Remember to click the subscribe button and leave a comment. Your support is the best way to help our channel grow. The Strait of Gibraltar. The Strait of Gibraltar is like a narrow passage that connects the Mediterranean Sea to the Atlantic Ocean. It's located between the southern part of Spain and the northwestern part of West Africa. This area is within the borders of Morocco, Spain, and a British territory called Gibraltar. The strait is about 36 miles long, but its narrowest part is only 8 miles wide, between a place in Morocco called Point Marachi and a spot in Spain known as Point Ceres. Ferries run between the two continents every day, and the journey takes as little as 35 minutes. Unfortunately, because of its location, some people use it for illegal immigration from Africa to Europe. This strait is super important for many reasons. It's been used by explorers and ships for a very long time, and it's still a major route for ships going between southern Europe, northern Africa, and western Asia. Now there's a big idea called the Strait of Gibraltar crossing. It's a concept for building a bridge or tunnel across the Strait of Gibraltar, connecting Europe and Africa at its narrowest point. It's an exciting idea that could change how people and goods move between these two continents. Origins of the idea. Building a bridge over a 13-kilometer stretch of water might sound easy with today's engineering marvels. For instance, there's a bridge connecting Cuba and the Crimean Peninsula that's almost 20 kilometers long. In China, they've got bridges spanning more than 40 kilometers. The longest one over water is the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge, which is a whopping 56 kilometers. So, why hasn't there been a bridge between Europe and Africa yet? Are the engineers not up to the task, or is it a money problem? Well, the answer is a bit of yes and no. The idea of connecting the African and European coasts was thought up in the middle of the 19th century, a time when trains were becoming a major way to move people and stuff around. Some even suggested building a dam to block off the Strait of Gibraltar completely to make travel easier. Luckily, they didn't have the resources for that big idea back then. Even though some great engineers kept the dream alive, it took more than a century for the project to get moving again. In June 1979, the kings of Spain and Morocco signed something called the Common Hispanic-Moroccan Declaration of Fez. This was all about making it easier to cross between Europe and Africa. In 1988, the King of Morocco even hoped the bridge would be done while he was still around, but sadly, those hopes didn't come true. Bridge versus tunnel. To link Europe and Africa through the Strait of Gibraltar, many engineers came up with ideas for bridges and tunnels. These were designed in different ways. One plan, proposed by Professor T.Y. Lin, involved a bridge with deep supports. It was 14 kilometers long and had really tall towers that reached 910 meters. The bridge's main span was 5,000 meters, more than double the length of the longest bridge span at the time. Another idea in 2004 by architect Eugene Sui was for a floating and submerged bridge. It would connect to an island in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. However, building a bridge turned out to be impossible, so in December 2003, Spain and Morocco decided to look into making an underwater rail tunnel under the strait instead. Complications with the build? A big problem came up when the engineers hired by the Spanish government found that the stuff under the strait was really hard rock. This kind of rock made it impossible to dig a tunnel using the technology they had. One idea they had was to attach a pre-made concrete tunnel to the bottom of the strait using cables. This tunnel would carry cars and trains. But when they studied the geology of the area, they realized this plan wouldn't work. The main issue was that the technology in Europe wasn't advanced enough for such a huge project. Plus, there were other problems in that location. In late 2006, a Swiss engineering and design company called Lombardy Engineering was hired to come up with a design for the railway tunnel. They said that building this tunnel was different from the Channel Tunnel that connects France and Great Britain. The sea is deeper under the Strait of Gibraltar, and the ground isn't as stable. There's even a big crack in the earth called the Azores-Gibraltar Transform Fault running through the strait, and there have been serious earthquakes in the area. The biggest issue is that the strait is very deep in a spot where the distance between the land is the shortest. The seabed sinks down a kilometer deep. Engineers thought about changing the route a bit to the west where the seabed is closer to the surface. But they also had to deal with the ocean currents pushing in different directions. That made it really tough for engineers and hydraulic experts to figure out how to make the structure stay strong. All these problems made building the tunnel complicated, and they weren't sure if it was even possible. On top of that, the tunnel would cost a lot of money. Although there's no official cost figure, estimates from 2007 said it could be around 5 billion euros. In today's prices, that's more than 6.7 billion euros to build the tunnel. Relaunching the project. The most recent studies show that building the tunnel is still possible. In February 2023, after an important meeting between Spain and Morocco, the two governments decided to restart the project for an underwater railway tunnel across the Strait of Gibraltar. In 2023, they're planning to begin building this tunnel in 2030. Spain's Transport Minister, Raquel Sanchez, has mentioned that both countries are going to work hard on the project, which has been in the planning stages since way back in 1979. They've even talked to a big German company called Relaunching, which is the world's largest maker of machines that dig tunnels. Relaunching says it's possible to build the huge machines needed to drill through the ground under the Strait of Gibraltar. The plan is to create 3 tunnels, 2 for trains and 1 for service, connected by passages every 340 meters. The whole tunnel will be nearly 39 kilometers long, with about 11 kilometers underground and 27.8 kilometers underwater. It's going to be a big project that will take 10 to 15 years to finish, and it will need the hard work of many thousands of people. Benefits of the tunnel. Building this tunnel could bring a lot of economic benefits to both regions, especially in the areas close to the project. The tunnel would make it easier and faster for people and goods to move between Europe and Africa, way better than flying or using ships. This would improve transportation in the Western Mediterranean. Connecting Europe and Africa like this would help expand and boost trade. It would give the European market an easier way to reach the African market, especially through Morocco. Morocco hopes to get more British tourists and investors through this project, and it could also find new ways to sell its products, especially agricultural stuff, to the British market. They're even thinking about using the tunnel as a new way to send gas between Morocco and Spain. This project is huge, one of the biggest in the world. While some experts say it's super complicated and ambitious, it's not completely impossible, thanks to advances in engineering. What do you think? Do you think this project will actually happen? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.